Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of an Evolved Review. I'm your host, James Caleb Kitchens, and each and every week I am joined by none other than Caleb Stovall. Caleb, welcome back to the show.
What's going on, man? It's been a minute.
It has been a minute, and we have got a million things to talk about. This has been probably the busiest week, and the week that probably has the most, I'd say, valuable content out of anything in wrestling in the last, I don't know, at least the last year for sure. But it has been some time. I think that this weekend was probably the most excitement that we've seen probably since CM Punk's return.
Yeah, I'd say so, and I usually like to call this weekend Christmas for wrestling fans because it really is. It's a celebration of just everything you love about pro wrestling. You know, from the drama, the violence, the everything about it. Like, and it's not just wrestling's not just one thing. It's a lot of different things. There's comedy, there's drama, there's um fight, there's all this other things. It can be presented as a sport, or it can be presented as a drama, or it can be presented as this. And that's what I think, like, this whole weekend, every weekend pretty much, whenever WrestleMania weekend happens, that's what it is, because there's so many wrestling organizations that go down there during WrestleMania weekend. Even Impact Wrestling was down there. Ring of Honor, returned again. And, just all this other things are going on. And it's so cool, man. I love it. Like this is my favorite weekend of the year.
I mean, regardless of what level you're at as far as like a wrestling fan, whether you're like the most casual like WWE guy on the planet, or whether you can name every single like person on the New Japan roster, right? Like no matter where you're at on the spectrum, everybody universally acknowledges the truth, and that is that WrestleMania weekend is the mecca. I mean, that's the mecca of pro wrestling, right? Wherever
It
WrestleMania
is.
is that weekend, that is the place where everything in wrestling is happening. The only thing that I could think that even possibly compares to it that I've experienced would be WrestleCade. And it's not on this level,
No.
obviously, but it is a massive thing as far as indie wrestling goes. And
Yeah.
and and that's in a second place. And shout out to Tracy Myers and Brian Hawks that put that on. The guys that are that also bring us AML wrestling.
Yeah.
They do a tremendous job, and I think that as far as I don't think you're going to find a better like promoter booker combo on the indies as far as like the things that they're capable of doing. While I'm giving people shout outs, huge shout out to friend of the show, Chris Wiggins, who made his debut for MLW in
Yes.
Dallas over the weekend. I had a lot of friends at that show. It's not one of the things we're going to cover tonight because there's just so many items, but definitely check that out because anywhere that MLW is doing a big show like that, it's definitely worth checking out. Um,
Obviously I consume more wrestling than anybody on the planet. So naturally I watch MLW a lot. And I just saw him on the North Carolina show where Davey Richards and Hammerstone, or Alex Hammerstone.
yeah,
I drew a blank there for a minute, but they fought for the MLW title. Right before that, there was a match. I can't remember exactly what match, but Wiggins actually had the mic, and he
yeah.
and he like, as a referee, and he asked the guy, "Do you want to continue? Do you want to?" I was like, "Chris Wiggins is doing this." I'm like, "I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it." That's
Honestly,
awesome.
man, for a long time, I've really thought that he's one of the best unsigned referees out there. Um, several years ago, I sat at a Legends of Wrestling event, and I sat there next to the legendary Jimmy Hart, and we watched a match together that none other than Chris Wiggins was refing, and he was just like, "This is one of the best referees I've ever seen." And I said,
Really,
"Yeah," and that was like 6 years ago,
that's
and
amazing.
and yeah, I mean, he was very complimentary of Chris. So, um, you know, uh, the world is finding out. it's like in so many other instances, the world is finding out what we already knew. Um, that being said, let's get into what we're going to cover tonight. So tonight we've got the Hall of Fame on the docket first. We're going to talk about WrestleMania, of course, because it's WrestleMania. And then, of course, we're going to go switch gears and talk a little bit about AEW. We're going to talk about Supercard of Honor, which was a big deal. This was the first big Ring of Honor show under the AEW banner. Uh,
ROH, ROH,
lots
ROH.
lots of stuff happened, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Dynamite. So let's get into the Hall of Fame. This is one of those things where the Hall of Fame to me has been something that I'm very interested in, and in like I've probably for the last 10 or 12 years really dug into the Hall of Fame and really being a fan of it. Probably longer than that. It's probably been since maybe Austin was inducted that I've been that interested in
Really?
it. It's been a long time, and I really hated it the last 2 years, obviously, because in 2020 we did not have it, right? And then in 2021 they decided to do a double class. It was pre-recorded in front of no one, right? Awful, awful pandemic era nonsense. And everybody had like 2 minutes, and the only person that had longer than 2 minutes was Kane. And I think Glenn Jacobs is a fucking terrible human being. So does he deserve to be in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? Sure, but like, I mean, you know, I don't want to listen to him talk for 30 minutes. Is all I'm saying. Uh, anyway, let's get into this year. This year we had 5 inductees, which I thought went way better. This was broadcast live. It was broadcast in front of fans again. Although this year they actually kind of went out of the sort of banquet hall, sort of auditorium setup that we've got in years past. And this year we were actually out in a stadium in a ring. What did you think about that presentation?
I liked it. I thought that they tried that during what was that event that Bret Hart got attacked? Wasn't that that had to be 2019 then?
Yeah, it may have been 2019.
I think it was. It was around that time. Um, like I think they tried that presentation then, and I mean, I had no problem with it. I actually kind of liked it better. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe I guess it's just a feel of like one last time you walk down the entrance, rather than it looked like an award show basically.
They've
Like
done both formats, you know,
yeah,
um, and they've gone back and forth. Like the old one, like back in the day, it used to kind of look like the Comedy Central roast.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
You know, they had like the dais, you know, and everything.
Uh-huh.
But and then they went to like the kind of format they had this year, and then they went kind of to more of a Oscars type setup, which I liked. And then I think this year, um, you know, going back to being in the ring, I think it worked especially well for Undertaker's presentation. And let's be honest, he's obviously the main event here. A lot of people, including myself, really thought that Taker should have been the only inductee. Like he really should have had a class all to himself. Um,
I mean, I agree with that statement as well, but I like this presentation of it. I really did. I like I said, I like the idea of one last, entrance,
yeah,
basically.
and they kept it to 5 inductees,
Yeah,
which
and I like that.
yeah, which was nice. Um, the the Steiner brothers, I don't think it was as off the rails as everybody thought it was going to be. As a matter of fact, the only reference they can't use the TNA footage, right? Which is like Scott Steiner's like today. It's like his most famous clip is the math problem
Of course, but
with Petey Williams, you know, standing over there trying not to die, laughing.
yeah,
Um,
the
but you know they did have a reference to it in the opening little montage. You know, they
of
talked
course.
about the math problem, and then you know I think it was pretty tame. I have now officially had a match with a Hall of Famer, which I was very pleased with. I messaged Ace, another friend of the show, as I was watching the induction. I said, "Hey man, we've officially had a match against a WWE Hall of Famer now."
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember when you told me that you had that match with Rick Steiner. That's amazing. And look, I know everyone will say that about Scott Steiner, you know, his famous clip of the math thing and all of his promos in general. But look, when I was growing up in wrestling, right? WCW and WWE were around. And I remember specifically one of the tag teams that got me into wrestling was the Steiner brothers. They were awesome. They epitomized what tag team wrestling was. It was great. And even their little feud that they had in WCW was okay. It should have been even better than it was, but it was okay. Like their matches. Look, they've never been pretty workers or anything like that. It doesn't matter. Like their stuff was believable. You know,
Yeah.
they looked like they were trying to kill you, kind of thing, and it was great. You know, you talk about some of like their best matches too. Like I remember one of their best matches is one of my favorite matches, obviously, which is them versus Sting and Luger at Super Brawl. That was amazing. Like that match, if you've never seen that matchup, please go out of your way to watch that. That is awesome. I sound like Conrad Thompson now, but
That
I'm just saying it is, dude. I love that match. There's a lot of other matches, like some of the matches that they had with Harlem Heat and the
any of
Nasty,
those matches.
yes, and the Nasty Boys, even like the Nasty Boys at Halloween Havoc. That match is still one of the best tag matches of all time.
You know, I really enjoyed Scott's ongoing feud with DDP in WCW.
Yes,
Um, you know, that story that they told where DDP could never beat him, right? Like while DDP was a babyface, he never beat Scott Steiner, never got the win,
no,
and then he turns heel and forms the Triad and cheats to finally get the win on him. And it was like that was kind of how the story progressed. It's like I can't beat this guy, I can't beat this guy, I can't beat this guy, so I'm going to kind of give into my dark side here, and you know I'm going to do whatever it takes, literally. So uh,
yeah. I'm a huge Steiner Brothers fan, though. I always have been. I love their work. I love Scott Steiner's work as as a face, as a singles wrestler, though. You know, like I liked his
yeah,
stuff. Yes, his promos were off the wall, but you know something. I remember when they did one of those WWE things. I think it was top 10, and it was like top 10 botches or something like that, and like Dean Ambrose on there, John Moxley, Moxley on there at the time said, you know, people might, you know, remember him in a funny light, but you know what? He's still going to be remembered, and that's the important thing. Like they made their mark. You can't talk about wrestling without Steiner Brothers. So,
yeah, agreed.
so
I
like
was happy to see Charmel go in.
yes,
Um, I'm glad that Booker T was so heavily involved in that, and that he was the one inducting her. Um,
and I just like Booker T in general.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think it's great that they have the school together. Their gimmick was so unique. Everybody loves that gimmick.
Yeah,
So I think that was it was great to see her go in. And it was also nice to kind of see her as not the on screen character, right? Like she was just very humble and she was great up there. I thought
yeah.
personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she hasn't been in the business for so long. She's obviously been away from it. So she was just grateful of the time that she got and everything. You know, and it was awesome to see that. And it was also awesome to see like Sasha Banks and the girls having fun with her and stuff like that. That was great.
Um, I want to talk about the Warrior Award for a second. As you know, and I've mentioned this on this show and others, I'm really annoyed by the concept of the Warrior Award because when the Ultimate Warrior himself suggested the award. What he wanted the award to be is he wanted it to go to one of the people who is not seen on television, right? Like he wanted it to go to like the crew, the lighting people, the like video production folks, people that you never hear of, the behind the scenes folks.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted the Warrior Award to be for, was kind of the unsung WWE heroes. But that is not a publicity stunt, right? And so they kind of made it this thing where instead they give it to somebody who they can use as a publicity stunt for WWE. Now, this year, I am still incredibly happy that they went with Shad Gaspard.
Yeah.
When I found out that Dana Warrior was going to be inducting him, I was like, this bitch. But I am very glad that she kept it very short and then let his wife come out and talk, and JTG came out, which I was very happy to see as well.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, there's
Yeah,
nothing else really to
I,
say beyond that. You know, he was a true hero.
yeah, I was about to say, dude, like I couldn't. I don't really have much to say. This one was a bit different.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm happy that they acknowledge that, because I mean, we say that word hero, but I mean that man literally, sacrificed. He did what any father would do. Every father in that building, every father watching, is just like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I would do for my child. I mean,
Yeah.
that it's just the way it is. And unfortunately, that happened. But yeah, like I said, it was different. But that's all
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Uh,
That's
we
all.
also we also had Vader. If you don't know the story about this one,
Mhm.
Nikki Bella infamously either tweeted or said in an interview the week before WrestleMania that she could not wait to hear people give their Hall of Fame speeches, particularly people like Vader.
Yeah,
I guess she was not aware that he died in 2018.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she. Yeah, I don't know. Like when I heard about that, I was like, wait, that's real. Like
Right?
that can't be real. How do you not know that?
Yeah. So his award was accepted posthumously, and I thought that his son especially gave a really nice speech. I don't know that there's a whole lot of commentary on it because, like, you know, he's not there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it sucks, man, because I'll tell you what, Vader was big in my childhood as well, man. When I first started watching wrestling, that feud that he had with Sting in WCW, he might honestly be the best WCW champion of all time. Not NWA like Ric Flair and everything. Not that. But I'm talking about just in WCW. In that run that he was champion, I mean, he was, say what you want. So, people might say, he looked like a bully or was a bully or something like that. But no, man, he was from that original era. He was tough. He was stiff in the ring. When you fought Vader, you came to work. Basically,
right.
hey, you want to be a pro wrestler? This is what you got to do. And you know what? Credit to Sting. Sting, stood toe to toe with them, and that feud was great. His feud with Cactus Jack in WCW, that Texas Death Match. If you've never seen it before from Halloween Havoc '93, please go and watch it. I'm telling you right now, it's one of the best Texas Death Matches you'll ever see, and that's on a WCW pay per view. And I love WCW, by the way. But
And,
he was huge. He went up against Hogan. He was in a main event of one of my favorite WCW pay-per-views, which is Bash at the Beach 95, just because it had the beach and everything. And then like it's Hogan versus Vader inside the cage. I'm like, this is ludicrous, but it's amazing and I love it. So yeah, Vader it was awesome to see him acknowledged and everything like that, because he's done so much. He did so much in Japan. He did so much. He did a lot in WWE, and he probably could have been bigger. But At the time, forces against him basically, but still an amazing career, and probably will go down as the best big man, or one of the best big men in the history of the business, because he could do
Yeah.
a moonsault. A man his size could do a moonsault.
And it doesn't matter how agile you are. It is not easy to work with someone who is that large,
Yeah.
especially someone who is much bigger usually than his opponent. I mean, obviously, if you've got an agile guy, like a smaller guy, you can do a big man, little man type match. But when you're somebody like Sting's size or even Hogan's size, it is hard to do a match with someone who is just that large and have it be believable, entertaining, etc. Even in that era, where he was most prevalent. So,
And
um,
and
I
I,
was happy to see him go in.
I've got to mention this too as well. He also has probably one of the best title matches in WCW history with Ric Flair at Starrcade 1993. Those two put on, that was a 5-star match. If it didn't get 5 star, I believe it did get 5 stars though, but that was a 5-star matchup. That matchup was incredible. It showed Flair was not old and washed up. He could still go at an elite level, no pun intended.
Mm.
And and Vader, he was a monster heel at the time, and it was amazing, dude. I love Vader.
Fuck Dave Meltzer and his rating system, because I'm going to tell you right now, Kurt Angle has not one single 5-star match from Dave Meltzer.
How does Shawn Michaels and him at 21 not get that?
You mean the greatest wrestling match of all time? Anyway, we digress. I want to go on to Undertaker. We got a lot of material to cover tonight. So let's talk about Undertaker. Okay, 25-2 at WrestleMania, insane. Will never be touched. 21 wins in a row, WrestleMania, will never be touched. 4-time WWF champion, 3-time World Heavyweight champion, Hardcore champion, 6-time Tag champion, actually 7-time if you count the WCW run. Royal Rumble winner. He won 15 Slammies. There is probably no one who is more WWF / WWE than Undertaker.
No.
The character infamously debuted here. Even Stone Cold was known for some of his work in WCW and his work in ECW.
Yeah.
If you look at Undertaker's body of work, Mark Calloway is almost entirely, he is a WWE guy. Even Vince McMahon famously said that Eric Bischoff never even tried to call him because he knew he wouldn't pick up.
Yeah.
I really love that they rolled out the red carpet literally for this man.
No, I loved it, man. The Undertaker is obviously was my childhood, but he was through so many years. Like, I think Mick Foley said it best on one of the WWE Legends thing, where he said, if you look at the Undertaker, that's a 3 or 4 year character at best.
Right.
He made it last 4 decades.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. I mean, just the level of dedication that he showed to the gimmick. And the gimmick, when we talk about wrestling and people say, well, I don't like the over the top gimmicks, like the occupational stuff and all this other stuff. You don't get more over the top than literally a dead man who shoots lightning bolts at times and has buried alive matches and inferno matches and all this other stuff, like,
He's got
but
druids, man.
yeah,
Like
he's got all this other stuff. But here was the thing: nobody ever really cared, because he committed to it so much that you still kind of believed that he was this thing. Stone Cold even said it best. He said when him and the Undertaker fought for the title one time, he said, I had all this stuff I was getting ready to do, and then those lights hit, the music hit, and he came out, and I totally forgot everything.
You really don't understand it if you never got to be in the building for a live Undertaker entrance. then there's no way I could possibly explain it to you. But if you've been in a building where The Undertaker came out, the man has an aura to him that
Yeah.
is not replicated, to my knowledge, by anyone in the industry. Maybe not anyone in any industry.
No, he's incredible. He's had some of the greatest feuds. He's had some of the best matches too. I mean, he's a guy that could work and everything like that. In the Attitude Era, many, including myself, if there was a top three of the Monday Night Wars, it would go Austin McMahon, NWO, and then probably Kane and Undertaker.
Yeah.
As far as storylines, I'm not talking about, obviously Stone Cold and The Rock are the biggest, but uh as far as feuds and storylines, creative stuff, that feud was so creative. I mean, it's so over the top and soap operic at times, but still it worked because who knows? It worked with those two. And yes, Vince Russo had a ball with that, I guarantee you, because that was his type of stuff.
I mean, the thing is, you got to think about it. Undertaker worked prominent feuds with like Hogan, Yokozuna, people like that.
Yeah.
And then he also had a feud with AJ Styles.
Yes.
Like you're talking about like AJ Styles wasn't born when Undertaker was doing some of the things that he's known for back in the day. Like insane, dude. Uh,
Oh,
and you think about it too. I can remember maybe 15, 16 years ago,
yeah.
like in the early like TNA days, right? Like uh, when the Jarretts were like still completely in charge of it. I remember saying the Phenom versus the Phenomenal One, Undertaker versus AJ Styles, that's money. And so many people were like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, you're not gonna get a good match there. That's not gonna draw. And what's his last match? The very last match he ever has, the man that retires him, none other than AJ Styles. I didn't call it on purpose, but I did call it. Uh, it's incredible to me that we finally got that match. I do hate that AJ was not able to convince him to have one last match in the ring
Yeah.
after that. But the Boneyard match to me, I mean, went over so well, especially with so many people shitting on the concept of a cinematic match, and I don't like the concept either. But they did such a good job with it, and they got it over, and I thought it was incredible the way that they played it. The one thing you did mention Mick Foley, and my biggest issue with this was that Undertaker did not.
I did have an issue with that after the fact. I didn't realize it at the time until it was pointed out, that yeah, and I did find that weird because, man, I mean, obviously, when everyone thinks of the two of them, it's that Hell in a Cell 1998. It's still to this day, like I go back and I watch it, I'm just like, this is still some of the greatest footage you're ever going to see, but I would not recommend anyone ever do it. Like,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean that Hell in a Cell match may be maybe the most famous wrestling match ever.
oh
You
yeah,
know, when you talk about like inside the right wrestling fandom, right? Wrestling fans are going to talk Undertaker and Andre, or not Undertaker, Hogan and Andre. They're going to talk Savage Steamboat. They're going to talk, they're going to say Rock Hogan, right? But those are all matches that, or even Austin and Rock's WrestleMania matches.
yeah,
But those are all matches that like wrestling fans know and love, even if you're a casual wrestling fan. That Hell in a Cell match is known everywhere. People
yeah.
who don't even know about wrestling, don't know anything about wrestling, don't care about wrestling. They know about that damn match because that's how just absolutely bonkers it was and how widespread it is.
Yes, even still to this day, you watch it and you're like, how does a human being live through that? Like, how is Mick Foley still alive?
It,
Like
it's it's one of the
I
most
don't
bonkers things that exists in pop culture.
it really is. And listen, I know he loves the business and everything, but there is a time where you can go, hey man, let's get help because you went through something you weren't supposed to. But this, that's just one of them, and stuff like that. But then, like, the first Buried Alive match with Mankind and The Undertaker. I like that match. That match is awesome, but I don't necessarily like the concept of a Buried Alive type thing. But hey, it worked at the time, I guess. And just other stuff like we also can't, help but talk about Michaels and Taker, which he did acknowledge. I mean, Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25, is that still not one of the greatest matches of all time?
Oh, absolutely. And the year after is right up there with it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, Undertaker has so many legendary matches. Um, Not a huge fan of how at the end he put the hat and the coat back on and did the Never Say Never. I like the idea of him doing that if and only if he's never coming back. Like if it's purely there as just like a tease, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if he ever, I don't think he should come back. I really don't. I think he's done everything he's going to do. Would I love to see him have that match with AJ in the ring, and I think AJ could carry him if he was healthy, sure. But he doesn't owe us anything else. His
No, he
body
doesn't.
of work is immaculate,
Yes.
and there's always the roll of the dice that you could end up having a terrible Goldberg esque match, and then what are you going to do?
Oh
You
God.
know, you don't want your career. I mean, at 30 years in, the man has the opportunity to walk out on a high note
Hmm.
after so many years of it possibly being a negative because the match with Brock was awful. The match with Roman wasn't great. I mean, it was better than the Brock match for sure. But, you had so many matches in there where he could not perform to the degree that we expected. And so it's like, go out on this high note, man, with this Boneyard match that is universally loved, basically.
Yeah, no, I agree. But man, I absolutely love the fact that when he came out, the fans were like cheering him for what seemed like 30 minutes. Like they just wouldn't let him talk. They just didn't want him to leave and everything. They wanted to love him.
Yeah.
They wanted to say thank you because he's responsible for so much in the wrestling business. Like, you know, I would say there would probably not have even been an Attitude Era if it hadn't been for the Undertaker carrying the WWE for all those months.
Yeah,
Because he was probably next to Bret Hart and next to Michaels, he was probably their biggest draw.
yeah, I gotta agree with that. And there was no equal to him on the other side.
I mean, the man's incredible. He has so many wrestling stories that I can't wait to hear. That he's talking about on podcasts. I love hearing him talk. I just it's amazing, man. I had fun with this Hall of Fame. I really did.
Me too.
But yeah, there were other things.
Well,
Uh,
and we all know that the Sting match, right? Like the match. If we could have got a Sting match 10 years ago when they had every opportunity to do it, I think it would have been up there with him and Michaels. It would have been one of the greatest matches of all time. But we're never gonna know now.
yeah, no, we're never gonna know. And I mean, oh well, I mean, it was clearly right there in the staring them in the face. Clearly everyone wanted it, but they for whatever reason never pulled the trigger. And it's not like Sting can't go, obviously, because he just went through two tables off of a balcony.
Steam can definitely still go. That being said, man, let's wrap this up because we got to get moving here. We got
Yep.
so much to cover. Let's talk about Mania Night 1, man. I was
All
reluctant
right.
to cover this. I was like, fuck, I guess we'll watch WrestleMania, but I'm really glad that I did. I actually, this all happened. WrestleMania almost always coincides with my birthday weekend. And so, uh, my we celebrated my birthday on Saturday, So I saw a little bit of the opening, and then I left, and I came back right as Seth Rollins was making his way to the ring. So I watched that live, and then I had to go back and watch some of the rest of it. Um, I think the way that this opened, I like that the crowd was pretty hot. I loved that giant arena feel. It's been 3 years since we got to see a packed out arena like this.
Not an arena, a stadium.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I
Uh,
and dude, that is what I've always said about WWE right now. Like people could say they want competition or whatnot. I said, you see WrestleMania? That's a stadium that they pack out. And they not only pack it out, they sell it out. I don't care what anyone says. There's not a seat in the house when they do those stadium shows for WrestleMania. Doesn't matter what the card is, if you've noticed.
yeah,
Like,
and I was so glad that the shit is inside.
yes.
You know, I hate the outdoor venues, man, because the sound is ruined in the outdoor
Well,
venues.
and I get that, but I also like it because I don't know. I like the scenery of it.
One thing I gotta say, man, is like the WrestleMania stage. It's like every year the WrestleMania stage gets bigger and
Yes.
bigger and bigger, and it's like at what point though? It's like at some point your talent that you want to be showing off, you're backing out and showing them on this giant stage, and they look this big.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I mean, I guess you would want to go bigger and bigger and bigger, but at some point I'm just like, can we get a little creative with this? Like, does it just have to be a bigger and bigger set every year? But I did like the set this year. I thought it was really nice.
I mean, I get that as well because I've often said, why do we need a big entrance set all the time in wrestling? Like, you know, when they do the Madison Square Garden shows sometimes, and they have that like little entrance right there.
Yep.
Why don't they do that more often? Like, why do we need to set up this big, huge thing every single time? You can make a high definition product without that.
Yeah, I really, I mean, I get for WrestleMania, right? They want to roll out
Yeah.
all the pyro, which was nice to see a lot of pyro again.
Yeah.
And they want to, they want to figuratively and literally roll out the red carpet. They want to make everything bigger and bigger, or more stupendous, as they said this year. I was
Mhm.
like, you guys had to call it the most stupendous WrestleMania when you didn't have Matt Hardy that was going to be there to just be like stupendous. But
Yeah.
either way, let's talk about this opening here, man. I have not, I don't watch WWE's product, so full disclosure on that, I don't watch it at all, right? Uh, I don't know who the fuck Rick Boogs is. He sucks. But this Nakamura entrance was really cool.
All right, so Rick Boogs is I guess someone that they paired up with Nakamura, and he does that entrance pretty much all the time on SmackDown.
It's like a Freddie Mercury wannabe kind of gimmick, I think.
I don't understand why Nakamura just can't be Naka fucking Mora. Why? Look, in New Japan in Ring of Honor, he didn't have any of that. He was just Nakamura. He came to kick your head off and everything like that. And the fans bought it because it was him. Now it's just like, for whatever reason, people at WWE or Vince McMahon just sees that and they're just like, oh, this is all he's good for. And I'm just like, no, he's so much better than this. I mean,
Yeah, I like the like where they do the actual like live performance entrance for him. I think it works for him. But when it's bell to bell, just let the man go out there and do what he does.
yeah, but I
Um,
don't think he needs anyone to speak for him. Like
yeah,
that's the thing. I know he speaks broken English or whatnot. It doesn't matter. He has enough charisma that you can get away with that. There's ways that you can shoot. I'm just saying, like, I don't like what Nakamura has become. Basically, I'm just like, he's so much better than this.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
he but
Boogs
that's
tries the double fireman carry, gets legit shoot hurt.
yep.
Quad patellar tendon torn, gonna be out for a long time, probably surgery. And the Usos got the win, although I think the Usos probably were scheduled to get the win here either way, because as we know, the entire like tribe or whatever they're calling it has all the belts now. Um, so there we are. So I'm sure that they were scheduled to win these before the
Yeah,
injury or not.
yeah.
Um, I I don't know that I really want to need to go into Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. I
No,
think I think Baron Corbin in all his iterations has been absolute shit. Completely uninteresting. Waste of TV time. Drew McIntyre I think is a good talent, but I think he's peaked.
I I don't know about that. Maybe I don't understand why he has to come out wearing a kilt and a sword. I just I don't understand that. Why do we center wrestling storylines a lot of the times around you stole my sword or you broke my toy tank or you broke, something like that. Like, we're grown adults here,
And
like,
how about that ending spot where he cut through the ropes?
oh God, I was like, no. Mm-mm-mm.
at,
That
at, at
now,
some point we are no longer getting the talent over and we're now putting tremendous effort into getting a replica sword over.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it reminds me of a wrestling promotion on the indies that used to give away a sword in a tournament and they sucked ass too. And yeah, this is terrible. uh, And honestly, this gimmick should go the way of that promotion and be gone. That being said, I did think that the next match was going to be terrible as well. I was like, at least we're getting all the duds out of the way here. But I actually got to admit, this is my favorite match that Dominic Mysterio has ever been in, other than the ladder match for custody of him, of course. And you know he would be a good wrestler if Eddie had won that match. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Uh,
That was
but you got to admit, Logan Paul did an amazing job here.
No, I was about to say I got to credit Logan Paul. I've never liked him for anything, but I've got to say that I was impressed. I was very impressed with what he did. And yeah, credit to him, credit to everyone in this matchup. It was really good. Man, he might actually have a future in wrestling.
He's
And
better than Dominic
he
already.
might yeah, he might actually try to pursue wrestling. He
I think he
might.
will. I think he's got a contract.
I
It
I
may
don't
not
know.
be a full time deal, but I think he does have a contract.
Well, he
So,
might.
that being said, I did like the psychology of the finish on this with them with the blind tag, the 619, and then Miz sneaking in and getting the skull crushing finale. Turns on Paul at the end. I think we're going to get a Miz versus Logan Paul feud now, which honestly I welcome that. That could be actually be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I might actually become a fan of Logan Paul if he beats the shit out of the Miz.
um, this was a good match. The first truly great match though on the card is the next one. Becky Lynch comes out, and I love the way they did this. Becky's entrance was okay. Bianca's was amazing. She completely blew her out of the water, and it was kind of like they almost gave away the finish having the champion enter first. I thought.
In ways, yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't really see it either way, but yeah, I just the match was awesome. The feud has been pretty spectacular at times. I
Yeah.
just don't understand why they felt as though to take the hottest thing they've seen since almost Stone Cold Steve Austin and turn it heel like that. Just
Honestly,
I don't understand it. I mean, to be honest, she's done great as a heel, which I knew she would be, but I still don't understand it. It's like she was the hottest thing in the business.
she was, but then she left, right? And I think when she came back, I think when she left a world where she was one of the most over, if not the most over talent on the roster. And I don't just mean on the women's roster, I mean on the entire roster. But when she came back, it was a different environment. Wrestling is a what have you done lately for me business. And if you look at it, I mean, Becky is not as over as Bianca at this point in time. And when they had her come in and just kind of squash her in the way that it happened, people were livid, and rightfully so, because Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks last year at Mania is the best women's match in WrestleMania history, in my opinion. It was easily the show stealer for Mania last year. It completely took the wind out of all the sails for night two. Um, it was incredible, absolutely stellar main event.
Yeah.
Um, so it's hard for me to look at anybody on the roster. Like I think that Bianca Belair, I think she may be the best right now. Period. As far as women's performers in wrestling go.
Well, I mean, and that may be so, but I don't know. Like, if they hadn't have booked her like that, to me, she wouldn't have been a heel. Like, I to me, I wouldn't have done that. I would have. It's like with the Ronda Rousey thing. Like, why didn't you book Becky versus Ronda and just let it be what it was? Because it had this real attachment to it, and you could have done that with Becky. Like you could have done the whole even Austin versus Rock type thing where it's not necessarily heel versus face. It's just, hey, you think you're the best? No, I'm the best.
Uh,
Kind of thing.
Honestly, man, I don't feel. I feel like Becky is not in the best health. I don't know if it's just like being a mom and being on this crazy WWE schedule. It's wearing on her. She's just getting older or what. But like, if you look at her before she left and you look at her now, she's lost like a lot of weight. And I know she's had some recent medical issues too. So I mean, I just really hope that if she needs time off, that she takes it. Because I don't think she is as good as she is when she left, but she's still an incredible talent. I mean, this match, if it were not for other things, which we will get to, this match would have stolen the show for night one. Um, I mean, it honestly, this would have been the show stealer if, the highest drawing superstar of all time had not come out of retirement for one night. You know,
Right.
and I mean, you can't do anything about that. You know,
Right.
uh, so any other thoughts on this match before we get into the really really gooey stuff?
No, I really did like this match though. Both women put on a great match and stuff like that. Um, so I mean, yeah, and I'm glad Bianca went over, especially after everything that's gone on between the two. Uh, Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, her reaction was off the charts, man. They were so into it. And I honestly think that it may have even hurt some of the crowd reaction for the next match, which this was Seth Rollins against the mystery opponent. And a lot of people thought it was going to be Cody going into this, but there's been so many like false flags, right? Where it's like, oh, Cody's going to be on Raw. And if he's not on Raw, then they're going to save him for after Mania. Okay, well, next week, all right, well, he's going to show up this week, or we're going to hear an announcement, blah, 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 blah. Everybody was wrong about everything. But the rumor mill was still hot that this was going to be Cody Rhodes, and honestly, up until his music hit and he rose up out of the stage, I thought the whole thing was a work. I was convinced.
Yeah, a lot of other people were as well, and including myself at one point. I really did. I thought, yeah, this is all work, but
How
it wasn't.
shocked were you to see this happen, man?
It was pretty surreal when the lights went out and you heard wrestling has one royal family, and then you heard the entrance theme that he's been using on the independents, not just AEW, but the independents as well. Like he used that same theme song in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I wasn't surprised that they used it because I'm like, they can. It's not trademarked or anything. I think he has a deal with that band,
Yeah.
which is Down Straight.
Yeah.
So, um, but dude, it was pretty surreal. I would like to say this before we go any further, all right? Because I'm a big AEW fan, obviously. I went to see them in Columbia. That show
Yes.
was awesome. But the thing is, look, just because they lost Cody doesn't mean that they're in trouble.
Oh, I don't think they are. I think that this is a win for everybody. I think AEW is better without Cody. I think Cody is better with WWE, and I think WWE is better with Cody. Now, will they ruin him? Yes, because they ruin fucking everything. But until they do, then I think it's going to work out. And the thing is, he's going to get a lot of money, which is what he wanted. Um, he's going to get to produce a documentary about his father, which is very important to him. Uh, which, unfucking fortunately, that means there's going to be another season of A&E Biography Legends. Fucking great. Because we were in such a hurry to review some more of those. But I think that, if you can produce a documentary where you can highlight all of the positive things about your dad and hide all the negative ones, then by all means, go for it. Uh, I think it's very interesting to see what Cody will do in WWE. Do I think that they will put him over Roman Reigns? Not in a million fucking years.
No,
And
no.
that's what you got to remember is there's only one world title now. So if anybody is going to take that belt off of Roman, they have to beat Roman.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, for
Right.
now, there's one title.
Right. We all know they're going to fucking I there is no way in hell that by WrestleMania next year there's not another world title.
Yeah, exactly. There's gonna be.
It's like
Uh,
every time they do a brand split. I was just listening to JR talk about this. He's like, we every time we did a brand split, we could not help ourselves but double dip. We would plan it as a legitimate brand split and making the crossover special, but then every time something came up, somebody got injured, we needed this, we needed that, it was, oh well, let's grab such and such from the other brand.
yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Um, I was gonna say something about Cody and everything like that, but I kind of forgot about it since we've just been talking so much about everything.
I do have one piece of advice for Cody and for WWE.
Yes.
Keep your wife off the fucking show.
Oh, and here's what I was gonna say. All right. Here's the ironic thing about all of this for WWE. They don't like to acknowledge anything outside of them other than if they own it. Like WCW and all of the other territories from the past and even the NWA. They don't like to acknowledge anything, right?
Right.
So here's where the booking in this becomes so hypocritical of that statement. Because when you book Cody like this, of him showing up as a surprise at WrestleMania, you are acknowledging the fact that people just saw him on AEW
Yep.
without saying AEW. That's what you're banking on. Because if you say Well, he's been gone for 6 years. Well, okay, to like if I was a kid at this time watching this and I saw Cody and I didn't know anything about AEW and I just knew about WWE. How do I know that Cody's done that?
Yeah, it's like Cody Rhodes has been gone for 6 years, where he did absolutely nothing of consequence, and
Exactly.
now he's back. He was Stardust, and now he's this guy. We can't explain it. Um,
Exactly.
as far as the match itself goes, I don't know what the fuck Seth Rollins is doing. I don't know what the gimmick is. I just know that I hate it. But the match itself was pretty good until the end. I I terribly, terribly hate that the man fucking buried the Crossroads in the opening match where he is return. He hit, I think, 4 of them.
Yeah, I did notice that, and people were saying, well, it's WrestleMania, there's like 17 false finishes and stuff.
It
So
was stupid as hell.
I I will say that, but I mean, as only if you take away that, the matchup was awesome. And look, I I hate the fact that from day one, Seth Rollins has not had a good gimmick in WWE since day one. But he still is, and I don't care what you or anyone say. I think he's one of the best workers in the business. I really do.
Bell to
He
bell, yes.
Yes,
Bell
that's
to
what I'm
bell.
saying.
Yeah.
Bell to bell. I know he has terrible gimmicks, but his in-ring work, when that bell rings, he can deliver. And he not only can deliver in one match, he can deliver in 2 or 3 matches in one night.
Yeah, I will say too, to Cody's benefit, that Cody cutter that he hit, he stood on that top rope for an insane amount of time.
Yeah.
Like the setup for that was just really, really smooth. I like how he negotiated in his contract that they would not mention Stardust at all, ever. And then within 4 minutes of the match opening, he does the little cartwheel and the fucking thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing, man? But I get it. He's out there in front of 70,000 people. And he got caught up in it. What I really don't like, though, about Cody, and why I think it's not a great opportunity for him is you got to think about this. In AEW, he's his own gimmick. In WWE, his gimmick is that Dusty Rhodes is his dad. That's his gimmick. We saw it here, and we'll get into it, but we saw it on Raw the Monday night.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll
you know,
get into that, but I liked it though. I
Oh,
really did.
it was an amazing moment, but I do think that because the match before this was so big, I think the crowd was tired, or I think he would have gotten an even bigger reaction than he did. I think he got a great reaction, but if you watch like during the match, the crowd is tired, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this next match wasn't gonna fucking pick him up any, cause this was junk, man. Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the championship. I don't know how many people we have to bury under the pile of bodies that Charlotte Flair has beaten in WWE to drive the point home, but I've been tired of her for years. This was predictably awful, in my opinion. Uh, it looked like they rehearsed the match over and over again. And the reason, and I can tell you because I've seen guys do it in the back and I've done it myself, you can always tell if the match has been overly rehearsed by the talent because they go from thing to thing to thing to thing. They don't let anything breathe. Because there are people who are good enough to plan the whole match and still take advantage of moments. Anthony
Randy
Henry
Savage,
is one of those people. Randy Savage is one of those people. Randy
Anthony.
Savage, though, is I was trying to go with like someone I've seen do it in the locker room, but Randy
Oh,
Savage is a great part of that. But Randy Savage would plan the details of the match down to where it's like, okay, I'm going to take this move, you're going to do this spot, and then sell, 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 and then we're going to do this. He had it built into the plan. And in this match, you could tell they were just going through the stuff. Spot, spot, spot.
Uh,
Not a fan.
confession. Fast forwarded. Didn't watch.
Hey man, I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you at all. This This was nothing we haven't seen before. It was just a worse version of different things that we've already seen. And everybody is just sitting there in the crowd and everywhere else. We just want to get to the goddamn main event.
Yeah.
Because we know that some fucking magic is about to happen. And oh my god, if it didn't fucking happen. We were
Oh,
all sitting there about to see the most, what I would say is the most important thing to happen in professional wrestling in at least 10 years. This to me was even more momentous than the streak being beaten. And the reason it was is because the match where the streak was lost, it was lost to somebody that the wrestling fans didn't want. And it was lost in a manner that wasn't planned and didn't look good. What didn't seem good to anybody. Undertaker was concussed in that match. This, though, was planned perfectly, and let me tell you why. They never advertised it as a match, because if they advertised it as a match, you expected the glass to break, Austin to be in all of his gear, vest, trunks, that's it. He comes down, you expected a match. But given that this was just booked as a confrontation, we all thought that it was entirely possible that he was just going to stun Kevin Owens and that was going to be it. And he was going to drink beer with the crowd, and that was going to close WrestleMania Night 1. But let me tell you, man, when Kevin Owens said, I want to challenge you to a match, I
yes.
got tears in my fucking eyes.
Yes, it was literally the first time watching a WWE event where I've been, oh shit,
Yeah.
like, oh shit, are we actually about to get a little bit of a match? And I didn't think it was going to be that long or anything like that, but I didn't care. It doesn't matter. When that glass breaks, man, there is not a more over entrance in professional wrestling than that glass breaking.
And
Every time that glass breaks, it doesn't matter what what is going on.
yeah.
Instant pop.
And they
Instant.
built it. And they built it. Owens talked for a long time. They let that tension build because everybody knows it's coming.
Yeah.
And so everybody's on the edge of their seat. I mean, just the way that this was produced, it was perfect. The way it was billed was perfect. The way that they executed it was perfect. And that's what it comes down to is the execution. And then when Austin says we're going to have the match, and you're sitting there staring at your television like, I'm about to see a fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin match. The man hasn't wrestled in 19 years. And let me tell you, the man is, what, 57?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that the number?
I'm
He's the
pretty
oldest person to ever main event WrestleMania.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
The
insane.
the oldest person to ever wrestle main event WrestleMania. And let me tell you right fucking now, I took a suplex on the concrete when I was like 25, and it sucked ass for days. So for him to be doing it at his age, he cannot be feeling good even now. I saw some of the spots they were doing, and I was like, this isn't some fucking old dude match. He's fucking wrestling Kevin Owens as if it was 1997 right fucking now.
Yeah, yeah, because that's just Stone Cold. He didn't care. He did whatever he needed to do, man. And dude, he showed why he. Everyone might say The Rock, but I disagree. The most over wrestler of all time is clearly Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's been gone 19 years, and he still gets that reaction.
It's one of the
He's
biggest pops I've ever heard.
it's insane. But I loved it during the segment where he clearly forgot that he was working for WWE and it's WrestleMania, and he said, "This sorry sack of shit."
Dude, I
he
don't
said,
think he cared.
and then he goes like this. He goes, "Bring me a god ref." Like he was about to say goddamn ref, but instead he was like, "Bring me a god ref."
So apparently they like ran through everything the night before, and he kept throwing the middle fingers up, and the producers kept being like, "No, you can't do that." And I guess Austin was just like, "Fuck it." you
course.
know.
What are
And
they gonna do to him?
right, what are they gonna do? It's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin. He can do whatever
He
he
doesn't.
wants.
He doesn't work for them. He
Right,
did. Like, he's just making a one-off.
right. Yeah, I mean, he already got paid. I'm sure. I did think it was weird that Austin kept like drinking beer during the match. Not that he's never done that before, but it happened a lot in this. It's like
Yeah.
that. They were just like, we're gonna drink beer for the rest spots. Oh, okay. But I loved all of this. I mean,
Yes.
this whole thing was incredible. It felt like magic, and that's something that WWE has heavily failed to produce for a long, long time.
No, I was skeptical at first, but Kevin Owens doing this with Stone Cold was the perfect way to do this. Kevin Owens pretty much resembles Stone Cold in a lot of way. I'm not talking about, overwise or anything like that, but I'm
Right.
talking, character wise.
He was the right person to do this with.
Yes, absolutely. I guarantee you Stone Cold pretty much said, I will do this if it's with Kevin Owens, but I won't do it with anyone else.
He
Right.
definitely picked. He definitely picked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I loved it. But it's not the only time we get to talk about Steve Austin.
it's not. It's definitely not. But it's the best damn time, and this is the only thing. And this is where, I say WWE has a problem because this, other than the Cody debut, this is the only thing that mattered past Monday, right? Everything else on these shows will fade away into the annals of whatever, right? Like it just happened. But this Austin's final match in Dallas, that will live on forever. It is a moment that will be relived over and over. I have not been this into a match in WWE probably since the Cena and Rob Van Dam ECW title match.
Yeah, and I heard what yeah. And I heard one time someone said that Austin was a bunch of brawling and no psychology. And I went, are you shitting me? Stone
No,
Cold, that was the whole point of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He even said it. He's like, I'm not a wrestler.
yeah,
Like
right,
he's made that clear. He's like, I'm not the ringmaster. I'm not a wrestler. I am a fighter.
right,
So,
naturally.
dude, I loved it. I absolutely fucking loved it. Great way to end the night. Great way.
Yeah, I was like, there's a reason this had to be the main because like fuck following this,
Yeah.
that pop. There's nobody, no one has produced a pop like that since he left.
Yeah.
I mean, The Rock has come close, but none of the guys who are supposedly. You think about The Rock and Austin era, right? Everybody since them who has been the top guy or the face of the company, right? You have Cena, you have Lesnar, and you have Roman, right? As far as like the fucking guy.
Yeah.
None of them, they're all mixed reactions,
Yeah.
right? Like nobody has been able to actually command an audience the way that those two were able to do, the way that Hogan was able to do, the way that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels to a limited extent were able to do, the way that Undertaker was able to do. But none of them were ever really truly the guy. I guess Brett and Sean were for a short period of time, but yeah, I mean it's just nobody since Austin and Rock has been able to really be the flag bearer of the company without having a huge portion of the audience against them.
Well, that's because Austin was real.
Right,
When you looked at him, he was real. That it's clear he didn't follow a script. He
right,
didn't talk, he didn't talk to you like you were stupid. He represented what everyone was. He wasn't. Some people say he might say he wasn't the best looking or anything, but I know a shit ton of girls who would wear that cut off Austin 316 shirt like that back in the day when they were at Raw. Like, I
yeah,
mean, dude, I mean, Jim Cornette said it best. When that glass break, man, the babies just they fly.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean it's unlike anything else.
yeah,
Uh, so on to night two, which failed to top that in any way, but Triple H coming out kicking off the show I thought was weird. It was almost like he didn't know what he wanted to say. I loved the concept of him setting the boots in the ring, but I felt like it was understated. Like I feel like they should have made a bigger deal about it. But I do think that without a doubt we see Triple H go into the Hall of Fame next year.
well, I mean, absolutely, but can you blame anyone for that? I mean, I have been wanting to ask you for a while what you thought of this announcement because you're a big Triple H fan.
I am a big Triple H fan. Although, obviously he's on up there, right? Like his wrestling over the years has suffered. Like I think the last truly great match he had was probably one of the matches he had with Brock, right? Um, because him and Brock had a pretty good series of matches, like shortly after Brock came back. But I mean, since then we've seen like, that awful fucking Saudi Arabia match. He had a good match with Daniel Bryan, obviously,
Well, yeah,
at 30, but I mean, shit, you know. Uh, so I am a huge fan of what he did with NXT. I'm a huge fan of his like behind the scenes work. I think he's an excellent producer, and I think he gets wrestling in
yes,
in a way that a lot of people in the world do not, including Vince McMahon. I think that him, I think that his version of NXT will be greatly missed. It already is. Notice that we're not talking about NXT 2.0 ever, and I don't plan to. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm, he's younger than Vince, right? But he's gonna have to retire. He might retire before Vince retires. Because let me tell you right now, he's got a defibrillator in his chest. The stress of trying to keep up with Vince McMahon is probably what put his heart in the shape that it is. The wrestling business, especially the WWE business, it don't stop, man. It's not a 9 to 5. He probably hasn't worked 40 hours or less in years.
yeah. I mean, and obviously, I think some of the stress from the NXT stuff, took a toll on him as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. I mean he's put so much stress on himself and he's trying to model himself after Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon is a fucking demon. And you just
Well,
can't do it. You
well,
just can't.
but here's the thing, man. Also, Triple H will also go down as like having some of the best matches though
Yeah.
as well. His feud with Mick Foley, I mean, my God, that dude, the Royal Rumble, Cactus Jack 2000 street fight, that's oh my
Yeah.
God, that's one of my favorite matches.
The
It,
entire Evolution run
oh
is
yeah, I love it.
godlike.
Oh,
All
I
of it.
love it, and a lot of people say that they hate that era, but I'll admit I loved the four of them. I even loved
Yeah.
it when it was the three of them. Just while Batista was injured as well um, during that time. And dude, I loved it. I loved Evolution. I was a big fan of that. I've been a big fan of Triple H. I think that there will be more to come for him to say. Right now he's just kind of like I don't really know what to say, kind of thing. I just basically had to say on ESPN of all places, that I've wrestled my last match. That's it. So he
Yeah.
doesn't really I think he's still trying to process all of it.
Yeah.
Because he basically said it himself. He almost died.
Yeah, he did almost die. I've read the whole story of like everything that happened. And yeah,
Yeah.
he could have died, man.
Yeah.
Um so speaking of being on life support, let's get into this tag match. Uh Randy Orton doesn't give a fuck, and he hasn't in several years.
He
Uh,
claims he's been reinvigorated though with wrestling. So I don't know.
I got to admit, I think RK Bro works better than I'm willing to give it credit for. Um, but it's just whatever. It's like it's one of the WWE things where it's just filler, right? It's just an act. The Street Profits, I think, are doing the same shit they were doing when I turned the product off several years ago. And then Alpha Academy, I don't get why they exist at all.
Confession.
You fast forwarded through this.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I would encourage anybody that hadn't seen it to do. Um, okay, Bobby Lashley versus Omos. I actually didn't fast forward through this because for probably the last 3 or 4 years, I've only watched WrestleMania, right? Like I don't watch any other WWE anything. I've watched the Royal Rumble a couple times. Haven't yet forgiven myself for watching it this year. Cause fucking a man. And every time I see Omos, even after him being, next to AJ Styles constantly for a fucking year, right? It's like surely he would have learned something. I started watching this match and I was like, how is he still this fucking bad? I mean, he's terrible. I mean, like
Awful.
the Great Khali could wrestle circles around this fucking dude. How is he still this fucking bad?
Yeah, it was awful. I watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch all of it. I kind of like I kept it on. I didn't fast forward it, but I was definitely doing other things while I was watching.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Like, has he never seen a wrestling match? Has anybody like set him down with like Paul White match or Andre match or even a fucking Shaq match from AEW? Has anybody set this man down and been like, "Hey, this is pro wrestling and this is what you're supposed to do"? Because it clearly looks like the man has never been trained or in a ring ever.
Nope.
Every time he gets into a ring, I'm like,
Nope.
does he not fucking speak English? Like, what is the problem?
I don't know. I didn't pay too much attention to this match, man. I just yeah.
And now they're gonna have MVP manage him, which I thought was dumb.
Oh, I fucking hate that. I'm just like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
As
Uh,
long as
it,
it's hurt business.
Now let's talk about something I thought was gonna be dog shit, but actually was quite good.
Yes.
Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville.
Yes, I so want to talk about this because I am a huge, huge Jackass fan.
I'm like a kind of Jackass fan. Like I've seen them like movies and some of the other stuff they've done, and like I haven't seen the new one yet. I'll watch it eventually. Uh, but man, this I am you know me. I'm a huge proponent of when you book a wrestling show, you need to have a little something for everybody, right? And I think people who aren't big wrestling fans were probably really entertained by this. My roommate doesn't watch wrestling at all anymore, and this was on, and he stopped and sat there and watched the whole thing. He was like, "I am really entertained by this."
Dude, I thought this was absolutely hilarious.
It
Just
was, and the
and
whole time I was watching it, I was like, Jim Cornette's rant about this is going to be almost as good as the match.
oh yes, and it is.
I
It
haven't
is.
listened to it yet, so
It's tremendous, but no, I knew that was going to cause a stir. But man, Johnny Knoxville, man, he knows. Does he not know how to cut a promo or
he
what?
does, and how to entertain.
He was great. And dude, Sami Zayn might be one of the best entertainers in the business.
Yes.
Dude,
This reminded me of like you remember when Eddie was pretty new to WWE and they would just throw the shittiest like gimmicks and storylines at him and he would make them into like something amazing. That's what this reminded me of.
no, no, totally. Because I mean, dude, think about Sami Zayn. Go back to El Generico days in Ring of Honor. He was kind of this goofy luchador. He would do a lot of insane stuff, and then he had a great tag team run with Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens now, and then they had quite possibly the feud of the year,
Yep.
and one of the feud of the decades. It was that good in Ring of Honor. Was that feud with him and Kevin Steen as El Generico? And then he goes to WWE. He takes the mask off. He's never, really cut a promo, and it sounds like he's been talking for years. I
Yeah.
mean, the dude is incredible, and he really showed that with this match. I mean, dude, everything in this, from the commentary from Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee. I saw a lot of like people that like aren't regular WWE watchers that were like seeing Pat McAfee on commentary for the first time, and it was so weird to see. Like some people were like, "Who's this Pat McAfee guy? He's fucking great," and other people were like, "Who the fuck is this Pat McAfee guy? He's fucking terrible." And I was like, "Listen, Pat McAfee, love him or hate him, is the best character on WWE commentary,
Yes.
if not since Morrow, then possibly even since Jim Ross."
Yes. No, I completely agree with that statement. His commentary, he knows how to be serious, and then he knows how to have fun
Right,
with you. He
right.
just he's just such a natural at it. You almost forget that this guy wasn't, I mean, he was an important player. I'm not going to say that, but he was a punter in the NFL. Like he punt the ball. He didn't even kick field goals or anything. He just was a punter in the NFL, and he's now bigger than any NFL player in history.
Yeah. I
He's
mean,
huge.
it's just a crazy thing, and he's just a very entertaining guy, and he gets it.
Yes.
And he may not know the name of every fucking move, but at the same time, he allows the audience to experience the show through him, and
Yes.
that's his fucking job. Is he's the advocate there for the audience. He's helping the audience process what they're seeing in front of them,
And
and uh, and that's incredible.
I actually like him and Michael Cole together. Like
You know
you
what?
can you can tell actually that Michael Cole and him are really good friends.
I actually liked him and Cole together too, and that's fucking terrible because I haven't liked Michael Cole ever. But I think a lot of that is Michael Cole has matured a lot. He's gotten a lot older, and the two of them were good on commentary together. And I think a lot of times with Michael Cole in the past, his commentary partner, whether it was JBL or whether it was Taz or whoever, they get into this back and forth where it's like they're gonna shit on Michael Cole, and then Michael Cole's gonna be like, "No, man," and it's just a fucking annoying. And they would do that all night. And it's like, yeah, we fucking hate Michael Cole. We all get it. But I thought his commentary here was. There was never a point where I was like, man, I really fucking am tired of hearing Michael Cole's voice, which is a
Yeah.
first, I think.
Yeah. No, man. But Pat McAfee, when Chris Pontius came out, he was just like, and I'd like to say that that's the first time, or I would like to tell you that that's the first time I've seen Pontius's ass out, but that is not the case.
Right, right, right.
And then it's just everything. And when Sami Zayn shoved him back into the ring, he goes, his cheeks were just starting to get over. Like, Pontius came out with the party boy thing. I lost it. I was just like, oh my God, I'm on the floor laughing. This is so funny.
And the Wee
And then,
Man scoop
oh,
slam was amazing.
I was gonna say, did you see the crowd reaction when he slammed him
Nuts.
too?
It was
They
nuts.
lost it.
It was
It
nuts.
was so much fun. And then, dude, the moment of the match, though, clearly was the hand.
Yeah,
The hand that
that
hit.
looked insane. I was like, that fucking hurt, bruh.
I mean, it did, but it was so funny.
Yeah, Kane and Mae Young's child finally coming back for revenge. All grown up. So speaking of that fast forward button, there was a women's tag team championship match. Sasha Banks finally got her WrestleMania win, and then we were on to AJ Styles versus Edge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll admit, that's basically what I did. So yes, let's talk about this one because this was definitely a matchup I was waiting for. And can I just say, Edge has had some great entrances over the years. This was badass.
it was really fucking good. Um, I gotta say that uh, this is not how I would have had this go. I think that the finish took a lot of the like. It's clear they're using this as a launching point for a longer feud between Edge and AJ. And I didn't want to see it that way at Mania, and I thought it felt weird because it's like this match was supposed to be the match of the night show stealer for night 2, right? And I don't think it was, but I do think it was incredible because these two aren't really capable of having a bad match with each other,
But
and it's a dream match we thought we never were gonna fucking get.
yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the matchup. I love the matchup. Of course, you know me. I'm an AJ Styles mark, so I won't. I refuse
So
to
am
dis-
I. I think he's the best wrestler alive.
I
Uh,
do too.
but
I think so too.
my only issue with it is like I think that the match was just good. Like I think it was very good. I just don't know that it lived up to my expectations of these two. But it makes sense because they can't throw everything out there if it's going to be a longer feud. I just would have much rather seen them use the feud to build the Mania and had this be the blow off than. But they also wanted to get that they've never touched, right? This is the first time ever. So I get that, but I would have actually just had AJ go over clean here, and then I would have had Edge start his faction on Raw and take AJ out, and continue the feud that way, so that you don't shit over the all over the Mania moment, and that's how I felt that it went.
Yeah, but the ending was cool. The spear catching him and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So I mean, that was a cool ending to it. Like I said, I didn't have a problem with the match, other than yeah, I kind of wish that that I wish they would have kept Damian Priest out of there until tomorrow night, kind of, or until the next night, kind of thing.
yeah,
So yeah, I was because I was just like, what is he doing? Like, why is he there? Kind of thing. So
yeah.
I get it, and that's kind of how I felt. I felt like AJ should have gone over, but whatever. The match was still great. I loved it, and again, I love the entrance of Edge. I mean, that entrance
Yeah.
was awesome. Did you notice though? Speaking of entrance, apparently the pyro caught AJ
It was
and
the
cut him.
set. It
Yeah,
was the set. The edge of the set was really sharp. He was busted before he even walked out. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because people were warning, like Pat McAfee actually talked about it. People were like coming up to him, like, "Look, hey, stay away from the set. It's really sharp. It just busted AJ open." Um, I don't feel the need to talk about this next match either because I definitely fast forwarded through it. And just for future reference, I will never watch anything with Rich Holland in it ever again. So
I agree. I would. Can I make this small note?
sure.
What the hell have they done to Pete Dunne?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Uh,
What?
they have Chili McFreezed him.
I mean, God, but he didn't get a veto.
They have Fang McFrosted him.
I mean, dude, it is awful. The way that they see just like, oh, I
Yeah,
just
it was terrible.
Pete, go back to England.
Yeah, I don't know why Rich Holland is still employed.
I
Um,
don't know either. I
the
mean,
man has literally almost ended 3 careers, his own included. Like, he is unsafe and not great anyway, and should not fucking be there. And that's how I feel about that. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory.
this one I did not fast forward.
No, I thought this was quite good. This the show was getting real long at this point. I don't feel like the match before this should have even been there.
No, I agree.
It was like, damn, okay, we got Edge and AJ. Certainly that's the semi-main, right? And it's like, nah, nah, we got a lot left to go. I'm like, holy shit, man, really?
Yeah.
Uh, so this match I thought was really good. I mean, McAfee's not the best worker on the planet, but he's had some great matches. I really liked his match with Adam Cole back in the day. Um, it feels weird to say back in the day and a Pat McAfee match at the same time, but here we
Yeah.
are. Uh, yeah, man. I thought that this was played super well from a psychology standpoint. Austin Theory is amazing, but we all
I
knew
was
that.
I was about to say, man, it's so surreal to me because, dude, when I went to WWA 4, I went up there for a week, right, to
Yeah,
experience what it was like. He was there. He was just starting out
yeah,
in like getting trained. And I've seen him literally go from independence, from doing those shows on YouTube with WWA 4 to training and everything, to now he's on WrestleMania. He walked out in front of the WrestleMania crowd. And while he is a heel, he still got a good reaction. He wasn't an afterthought of the whole thing. He actually held his own, man. And then, dude, Pat McAfee to me is just a natural. He gets it. He knows how to do the moves. Some of the spots, man. Tell me the last time you've seen a crowd go nuts over a superplex like they did when Pat McAfee gave that to Austin Theory.
it's been a long time, bro.
I mean, they came unglued when he
Very
did
long time.
the way that they did that. It was tremendous. Michael Cole getting into it and everything. Dude, I loved it. It was great. The ending to it, tremendous. And then the interesting part.
Yeah, so we had this weird kind of setup where Vince got in there with McAfee, and it's like, McAfee's having to sell Vince's like fucking offense, and you can tell that Vince is like, I mean, Vince man's fucking old, man.
Yeah.
And then Austin comes down to break it up, and holy shit, did we thought we were gonna? I mean, we thought we were gonna get this Austin McMahon callback, but holy shit, man! It was the worst stunner ever. It was
Yes, it
completely botched.
was.
It
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 was.
was it was like Donald Trump paid him so that Donald Trump would not have the worst stunner in history.
I don't know, man. Like, it was, yes, it was awful. And you could even see Austin spitting up beer from laughing because it's so preposterous. And he,
My favorite part of the whole thing was Pat McAfee just like passed out with the beer like pouring into his mouth.
that was great. And then, dude, Austin Theory selling the stunner. Did you see that? He
Yeah,
flipped up in the air like 7 times.
he actually always like oversells the stunner. He
Yeah.
did it with JD Drake when they were on the WWE Network for Evolve.
Yeah, and Austin commented on that. And then when Austin gave it to him, he was just like, "Yes, I have to sell this. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I have to." And so I guarantee you, he had so much fun. I'm so happy for him for that moment. But man, my childhood literally stared me in the face during that moment. I was just like, Austin and McMahon. That is still to this day. I do not care what anyone says. I do not care if it's the NWO. I do not care if it's anything. The greatest storyline, the greatest money drawing storyline in wrestling history is still Austin versus McMahon.
I have a hard time arguing with that.
Because,
It really
dude,
was.
because dude, some people didn't even care about the Attitude Era. All right. They did not care about the other stuff that was happening on the show. They just wanted to see Austin and McMahon. They wanted to see how everything was going to coincide with that storyline. And it's magic every time. And then they did it here. Yes, it was the worst stunner of all time, but dude, who cares? It was so, it was
And
so much fun.
And the thing is, you got to think about how many times has it been replicated? Like, so many people have tried to replicate that. You have your rebellious baby face, and then you have your authority figure that's trying to shut them down. It's been replicated everywhere from the damn church softball league, wrestling promotion, all the way up to TNA, WWE, AEW hasn't done it yet, but they will.
Yeah.
Because it's money. I mean, it just is. That's where we're at.
Because it's a simple storyline, but it
And
matters
people
who the
understand
player.
it.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing: people have to like the players involved,
Right.
and Stone Cold, nobody disliked. You will hear it to this day. Like there's not a single person that dislikes Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're not gonna find a mixed reaction like you do with Cena and Roman Reigns and all that other stuff. No, people love Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then McMahon was the perfect foil for him. And then they were able to do other stuff. I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazing moment at WrestleMania. Yes, it was the worst stunner of all time, but still, it was great. It
Yeah.
was just great. And Mick Foley's reaction to the
It
stunner,
was hilarious, man.
it was just,
So let's quickly talk about the biggest match in WrestleMania history, which was just a shittier version of the like 7 other WrestleMania main events these two have had between Roman and Brock. It was a bunch of fucking shitty Superman punches and a bunch of Germans and then a bunch of finishers and then I mean I feel like Roman going over clean was the obvious, super obvious outcome here as well. Super predictable. This was just underwhelming, man. It wasn't the worst match on either night of WrestleMania, but it was just meh, and it's nothing we haven't seen before.
yeah, I didn't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
Just everything that they did to the over the top fireworks at the end with all of the graphics and everything.
I mean, just no one cares about. I mean, I guess somebody does, but it's just like
No.
those titles aren't worth shit anyway. The way that they're passed around. I mean, and then when you're not passing them around, you're putting them on somebody we hate for years at a time. So it's just like I don't know, man. I think Roman's heel work is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that it isn't. I much prefer him as a heel, but at what point are they going to admit that the Roman experiment has failed brutally? Because I mean, I thought he did a good job on Raw, but it's just like, what are we doing here? I don't think Roman is that good. I don't think him and Lesnar is the feud that they wanted it to be. I think they told a good build up story, but it's like the final product can't deliver.
No, I agree, but I mean, because here was the thing: they had a great match at WrestleMania 31.
Yeah,
Like I have to give it to them
I
at
would say it's
WrestleMania
good. I
30.
would not call it great. I've never seen a great Roman Reigns match in my fucking life.
I well, AJ Styles versus Roman.
That still, I mean, the
Yeah,
finish ruined that for me.
I agree, but still, um, yeah, man, I didn't. I watched it, but like I wasn't that interested in it. I wasn't interested in it from the start because I'm like, how can it be? So you're telling me that Hogan and Andre wasn't the greatest match of all time, like, or the biggest match of all time, like all this other stuff? Like, no, I'm sorry. Mm-mm. Like,
Right. Yeah.
if you have to tell us it's great, it's automatically disqualified.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, man, that wraps up WrestleMania 38. I thought this was a good event. I thought it was one of the best WrestleManias in a long time.
Yes.
I feel like they pulled out all the stops that they could. But I will stay true to this. If Austin doesn't come out of retirement, which is a thing they can only do once, and have
Mhm.
his first match in 19 years, this is a forgettable WrestleMania. As far as the history books, that's still the biggest thing. And the fact that a star who was in his prime 20 years ago is the biggest ticket you've got, that's a fucking problem for your industry.
Yeah, it really is.
So I thought this was amazing. But once again, without Austin, it's just a slightly above average WrestleMania, in my opinion.
It
Um,
it it's true, but it was a fun WrestleMania. It really
I, I,
was.
I I agree. I did not regret watching it like I thought I was going to.
Yeah, me too.
So, That being said, man, let's switch gears here. Let's head over to the AEW camp. We're about an hour and 40 minutes in here, so I don't want to spend a ton of time going through this. I really don't want to run down the entire Supercard of Honor card here. Um, I guess what stood out to you the most on this card, other than the main event, obviously?
FTR versus Briscoes. The
I agree.
Briscoes, I'm the Briscoes. I'm gonna say this. It might People might agree with me or not. I believe there's been one tag team. Everyone, there'll be your idiots that will say the Young Bucks, and some people will say the Young Bucks is the greatest tag team. I'm like, no, the greatest tag team for the past few decades now, ever since 2002, has been the Briscoes.
Huh.
I don't care what anyone says. There's not a tag team that's like that. There's not a tag team has put on more great matches as a tag team. There's not one that's been together as long as a tag team. They're amazing. And they're also great singles wrestlers.
I think they're great, for sure. FTR actually said after the match that this was the best match they've ever had. Um,
Yes.
this match was 27 and a half minutes long, and we all know that I fucking hate a long match. It was the longest match on this card, right? I was glued to it.
Yes.
It didn't feel like it was that long to me. I will note also that I really want to see Dalton Castle on Dynamite.
That would be awesome. I just now thought of that. But man, no, dude, this matchup was incredible. It was everything that was hyped for a match. This match lived up to it. Like it lived up to it and more. They absolutely they had the chemistry together. It felt real. That's the thing about the Briscoes, man. Does Jay Briscoe not look like the realest motherfucker ever?
He really does. I mean, they both really do, but Jay
I mean,
especially.
yes. But Jay, like, man, dude, I loved it. I absolutely love this. I could go on and on. How about this, man? The crowd was into this from start to finish. When
Yeah,
they locked up, they cheered.
yeah.
Like it was great. After every tag, it was I love this. If you have not seen this matchup, people, I implore you, go watch this matchup. And before we go on any further, how about the our boys are back on ring announcing?
Yes, it was so nice to hear Caprice Coleman and Eureka Bonnie back on the ring announcing. I think they're an incredible team, and I really think that AEW would do well to utilize them for more than just Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Not to say that they can do anything on Dynamite, right? Because they can't mess with that dynamic, right? But they could have them be the Rampage commentary team.
Yes, because the Rampage commentary sucks.
Yeah, I mean Rampage sucks.
Well, yes.
No one's fucking watching it, so you know. That being said, one other match I want to highlight before we start talk about the finish here is our boy Wheeler Yuta versus
Yes.
Josh the motherfucking Goods Woods for the Pure Championship. This was a fucking great match.
Awesome.
I've seen Wheeler Yuta on the Indies for years. He's worked a lot in the Southeast, actually. He's been all over, but I mean, he's worked a lot in the Southeast. And man, I was really happy to see him, win the title here, and like it was just a great moment to kind of cap off, Ring of Honor being back and them having this Supercard of Honor event.
No, I agree completely, man. Like before we go on, I'll say this: the Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor thing, it went from good to great basically all night.
I agree. Um, the main event, I thought was really good. I thought it was a little long. Um, it
It's for
was
the title
it
though.
it well, it is for the title, and I think the thing about it is 3 minutes shorter than the tag match, and it feels longer than the tag match. But
Mm.
that it's Gresham too. Gresham's methodical. He just is. But
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought Chavo did a good job at ringside. I guess he finally got a hold of Tony Khan. Uh, but the thing that everybody was talking about here isn't the match.
I know it. When the minute I saw it, I was just like, "Oh, Kitchens just lost his mind."
I did. I lost my shit immediately. I lost my shit immediately because it was Samoa fucking Joe. And
Yes,
he's all elite, baby. He's been signed. I was like, this is the best birthday present ever. I
but he's
absolutely
also,
lost it.
but he also is back to where his roots. He's in Ring of Honor as well.
Dude, I don't think he's going to be in Ring of Honor very long. I think after the reaction he got on fucking Dynamite, he got the biggest pop on Dynamite
Yeah,
that anyone has ever had that's not CM Punk or Daniel Bryan.
yeah,
Adam Page's pop was nowhere near what Joe got.
no,
And he's the fucking champion. That building came unglued for this man.
yes.
Now, granted, he needs to continue the kind of reaction, but Tony Khan was just like, I'm not fucking leaving this guy on Ring of Honor. I mean, it kind of sounds like they're going to have him and Jay Lethal probably be like the feud for Ring of Honor, and that it's going to cross over into Dynamite as well, and probably
Which is
Rampage.
which I have no problem with whatsoever.
No, because it's going to be fucking amazing.
Yes, and I'll say this: it was surreal to me to see on Dynamite Ring of Honor footage.
Yeah, it really was. I do have to say though, I'm the biggest Samoa Joe mark on the fucking planet, right? But like, I he was sluggish in that match on Dynamite. He was not. He did not have his normal agility to him, and that may be because he's coming off of being injured, and maybe he's just not like back in perfect shape or whatever, or maybe he has a little ring rust.
Oh
But
yeah,
I think he can get back there for sure. He was still fantastic. He still had a great match.
oh yeah, absolutely. And as much as I don't like Max Caster, I loved his rap at the beginning.
It was good. It was
I
really
was like,
good.
damn, that was actually pretty good. The one he cut on CM Punk in South Carolina, I was like, oh damn, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, he's been getting really good with him lately. And of course, we had FTR on Dynamite with another really good match. It wasn't as good as their Briscoes match, but them versus the Bucks were actually quite good. And you know that I'm not a huge Young Bucks fan, but I
Yeah,
thought that the match was very, very good.
no, I agree. And look, I'm not the biggest Young Bucks fan either. I'm only a fan of them when they have people that they can work with.
Yeah,
Like, because then they'll just be those people, who will just do the moves like they do, basically. But when you have like teams that can work with them, like Red Dragon, the Lucha Brothers, Jurassic Express, FTR, the Briscoes, all those other stuff, then they can work. I'll say this: there's a matchup with the Young Bucks versus the American Wolves. It was the first time that they hooked up on Ring of Honor television.
yeah.
It's one of the best tag matches I've ever seen.
I
Now,
have
this
not
was
seen that.
before this was before they were the Young Bucks, basically. Like they were just a young tag team at the time. But it was
Right.
an incredible matchup.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that they did for TNA was really good. I thought.
Oh yeah.
So,
That was
um,
the Motor City Machine Guns though, mostly.
the other day I watched. I actually watched a what was his name? Ty Dillinger match. Sean Spears now. And damn it, man! If that is not the ultimate case of why the fuck did you leave WWE? When he was Ty Dillinger in WWE and had the 10 gimmick, he was so good.
Yeah.
Sean Spears is just what?
Yeah,
Sean
I
Spears is a
don't
fucking joke, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what he is either, but man, it was so awesome seeing Joe at Ring of Honor. It was, I was so happy that Ring of Honor put on a great show and everything like that. And I was also, did you notice this? the production quality of Ring of Honor has never been better than it was at that show.
No, it was incredible. And Tony Khan's face when Joe was like going up the ramp at the end, I was like, me too, Tony. That's my exact reaction. So yeah, man. So one more thing before we wrap up. I don't want to go into the Raw after Mania, but did you watch Cody's promo?
I did see Cody's promo, and it's funny because he said the same thing in an exclusive interview at WrestleMania. So he basically just said the same thing, just made it more dramatic.
Honestly, man, you could tell he wasn't used to being on script like that
No.
because the first half of that promo, it felt like he was just reading it. He was like he was just trying to get through it. Second half, he started letting the emotions show through. I like this kind of idea of my dad never won the championship. I wanted to hand it to him. I never got the chance. Great, but if you're not gonna put him over on Roman and he's just gonna become another thing, I don't. I thought it was weird with Seth Rollins coming out and them shaking hands. Like, what are they gonna do with Cody? And I think that's all anybody really gives a shit about in WWE right now. It's definitely the only thing I care about. It's the only thing that would cause me to watch any of their programming over the next 360 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what they do with that too. I mean, it's pretty surreal to see Cody on WWE television again. Because you never thought you would see it. You thought he would be with AEW till the end of time, basically. But uh, it's not the case. So, and here's the thing, stuff happens. What I don't want Cody to do is all of a sudden say that he's not going to say all this stuff about AEW and then be like, "Oh yeah, AEW is doing this and every blah blah blah." Like, don't
Right.
do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Keep your wife off the show. Here's the thing, man. A lot of people don't understand. Wrestling is a business that lots of people want to be an art. It is an art, but it's a business first.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Cody. I don't think he's a sellout or anything like that for doing
No.
what's best for him. Do I think that what really happened is that Tony Khan realized his worth and Cody was upset about it? Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think Tony Khan thought that the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, and Cody Rhodes, and MJF, and Darby Allin were going to be delivering him these 1.5 million viewers. Like I think that the viewership that they were getting right around the time when they signed CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, I think that he thought they were going to get that kind of viewership with just that core group. And that never happened. As a matter of fact, Cody being on the show was not really a ratings bump for quite some time. And I think Cody is better on script. And I think the whole Roads to the Top thing really soured him. I do think a large majority of the AEW audience is done with his ass. And if that's the case, then I think this is a good thing for everybody.
Well, like I said, AEW's clearly not slowing down. They're still
No.
going full force. So is the WWE. I mean, that just happens. People just move on. Stuff happens. But I don't think everyone should be like, "Oh my God, this is the beginning of the end of AEW." Everyone's defecting now. I'm like, no, not really. Like, just no. But man, overall, it was an amazing weekend for wrestling, and that's all I can ask for. Like, WrestleMania is just always that weekend where it doesn't matter who you are or what you know about wrestling, you hear about wrestling. Just the whole weekend is centered around wrestling. And it's awesome. I love it. I wish that could happen 24/7. It can't, but it certainly is amazing this one weekend. So, and this was a great WrestleMania. It was a great Ring of Honor. It was all the great shows that happened. I mean, that I couldn't even begin to get into right now. But I mean, just so much stuff happened, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really thought that it was overall the whole weekend was one of the most monumental weekends for wrestling in a long time. I think the wrestling landscape has changed significantly, and it'll be interesting to see what happens, kind of as we go forward. I still think AEW has the momentum, but I think a lot of people are tuning into WWE because they want to see what Roman is going to do. They want to see what's next for him. And I think a lot of people mainly want to see what's going to go on with Cody. And as long as they can keep Cody feeling different, then I think they'll do a good job. So, man, that was a lot to run through, man. I really appreciate you joining me here. Once again, it is late, at least for me. But that being said, man, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. This has been the WrestleMania 38 edition. And overall, even more than that, it has been an Involved Review.